All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for coming to our little hangout in the sky. Uh, please welcome Jay and Varina Patel, our esteemed guests today.
Thanks so much for having us.
We love to be here. We fought dragons and snowstorms to get here, but we finally managed it.
I think I have proof of that, actually. Let me go to the screen share here. I'm pretty sure that I have this over here, so we can show everybody. Oh, and it should be that.
Wrong one.
No. There we
It's
go.
in there somewhere.
It was the right one. We have, I swear we have proof. There it is. Start screen share. Ta-da!
There it is. Yeah, we flew into Philly, and we arrived, got off the plane, and this is what the conditions were like. That's our little airplane out there, thinking about taking off. The pilots were in there. They were sitting there for ages, having... Actually, I think they were just checking Facebook, honestly. I really don't think they were doing anything. And they delayed the flight 3 times, and finally we just said, all right, this isn't worth waiting for, so we rented a car, and it took us 6 hours to make a drive that should have taken about an hour and a half, or sorry, 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
And we got here at 8 p.m., I think, so just in time for dessert. And yeah, we made it. I guess that's all that matters, right?
Such brave adventurers.
Yeah.
We're delighted that you guys took it upon yourselves to drive through that massive snowstorm. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're glad we could be here.
Speaking of brave, we had an idea a little while back, and Brian from Induro talked to Jay and Varina and said, we would love to do something wonderful with you guys. We love your landscape photography, and if you would like to do something out in the wilderness like you normally do with your landscape photography, we'd like to make a film with you.
Yeah.
And little did we know how special it would be. We were very lucky to also connect with Shade Tree Films, who went out and spent some back-breaking time with Jay and Varina in the wilderness of Banff.
They did an amazing job.
Yep, and in fact, they were carrying a lot more gear sometimes than we were.
Oh yeah, by far.
And we were impressed. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And we have lots of time for stories today. In the beginning, we're gonna give you guys an opportunity to learn more about this film premiere. If you go to endurogear.com/Patels, Patels, you can watch all of the films that we're premiering today in their entirety. Since this is a live Google Plus Hangout, you can also pause this on that page. You can watch the stream there and watch all of the other films, and then unpause it and continue watching this, or jump forward to where we are in the live broadcast. If you've already gone to the page and watched all the videos, please hang out with us, and you can just watch us talking, and you can submit questions from that page using the link. We have a little IRC chat window that'll pop up, and you can ask anything you like, and we'll have points during this hangout where we'll take questions. Jay and Varina will answer stuff. So in the beginning, we're going to talk about the experience, and then there's going to be a part 2, and we're going to talk about solutions, and sometimes the tools that you're required to do with the solutions. In the third part, we're going to go behind the scenes with Shade Tree Films and talk about the experience of filmmaking in such a remote place. So the first thing I'd like to also tell you about is we have an incredible giveaway today. We're not only giving away just 1 bag of really great stuff, we're giving away 2 bags of really great stuff. You can win Jay's bag or Varina's bag with 1 entry. And you'll find the details of that giveaway. There's a very rich giveaway on endurogear.com/Patels. No purchase required, no nothing. All we want you to do is enter, because we would love to share some of the great tools that Jay and Varina do with you. So I highly encourage you to go over and watch those videos at your leisure. We're very proud of Jay and Varina for what they do. We admire them greatly, and we thank Shade Tree Films for doing such a wonderful job. So without further ado, I think we can start talking about the inspiration behind this a little bit. Jay, would you like to tell us a little bit more about where did the idea come from with Banff? How did you decide to go out to Banff and do this?
So I have to tell you that when Induro approached us about almost a year ago now, and Brian suggested the idea, we were like, yeah, right. We didn't really think that this was going to be pulled off. So, but we did talk about it. Raina and I kind of talked about it and say, hey, if you want to go, how do we go about choosing a location to go at that? And we have, and we talk about this in the film a little bit as well. We decide on location based on the time of the year that we go photographing somewhere. And so when Brian came back to us and saying, "Hey, the time of the year is going to be either in some part in May or June, or some part in late summer," we narrowed the choices of locations down to few places. And I think the two places that we were really looking for in middle of summer to end of summer would be Glacier or Canadian Wilderness, which in terms of Canadian Wilderness, we were thinking about Banff, because the accessibility of the location for the video crew was crucial, as well as the conditions to be able to get the best photographs at that time of the year were also awesome. Both these locations are in their spring bloom in early August. So part of the reasons why we picked those locations were that the conditions for those locations are ideal to go shoot wildflowers. And pretty much all our location-based trips are geared sort of like this, is we look at the time of the year we want to go to, pick as the best location we can possibly be able to shoot, and then go there. So, Marina, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for us, when Induro approached us and then got us in touch with this film crew, starting that process was so foreign to us. You know, this is something, we're used to being behind the camera, certainly not in front of it. We do short little videos of each other sometimes in the field just as teaching tools, but certainly nothing like this. So, you know, I was very much sort of nervous about the idea. Jay, of course, is completely in his element in front of the camera, so he was fine with that. But I think getting me on board, you know, I was very outwardly enthusiastic and quietly thinking, what am I doing? You know. So, but I have to say, and that's part of what, you know, Shade Tree Films did so well. Not only did Induro come in and have this well thought out plan, this whole idea of how it was going to work, but they also had the film crew involved very early. They were storyboarding. They were telling us exactly, you know, how it was going to work. They were answering our questions. It worked out in a way. It worked out so beautifully. I could never have expected it to be, first of all, so easy to be in front of the camera and to feel comfortable, but that all comes down to the film crew too. You know, you get out there with a bunch of people who are, you know, just staring at you, it's not going to happen. But if you're out there with people who are joking around and just being real, you know, that changes everything. So I think that was really critical.
The experience is moving. I remember the first time I watched the first cut of the film. It was cathartic. Cathartic is the best way to say I was man crying. You know, like it was. It really brought up a sense of emotion in me, because I enjoy the wilderness too. I think a lot of people understand that there's a lot of natural beauty out there, and the wonderful thing about being landscape photographers is you bring those moments to many people. But you spend a lot of time figuring out how to capture those moments, and that's really the heart of the film. There is your dedication to providing these experiences to people visually. But little do they know how hard it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of work.
You go out in the field, it's a whole different, because the things you see are so overwhelming, and to be able to photograph just 3 things or 4 things or a section of that is a tough choice to make.
Yeah, it's tough to get in there to find your subject, but it's also tough to get to your subject in the first place. You know, there's a lot of hiking involved. We're carrying tons of gear. We're talking about 30 pounds, 35 pounds of gear each, you know, and that's where, you know, having a good backpack with waist belt is really critical, and having lightweight gear, all those things, you know, everything that goes into our bag, we're thinking about, do we need it? If we don't, it's not coming. You know, we're only taking what's critical. We're only taking the things that are really important. And then once we're on location, of course, then the real work begins, as if getting there wasn't enough, you know. But yeah, and that's when you start to feel this amazing sense of just peace, a sense of calm, a sense of, you know, this is what I was supposed to do. This is where I'm supposed to be. It's remarkable.
Speaking of that, is that how you discovered your love for this type of photography in the first place? What brings you back? What brought you there in the first place?
That's always a tough question to answer, right, Jay? I mean, that's something that I think it's different for each person. For me, I started shooting when I was a child. My dad used to let me use his camera, and you know, it was always available to me. I could use it anytime I wanted, which was wonderful. But I think on top of that, the access to nature was part of it. I think as a kid, I could go out, I could wander the woods, and I spent hundreds of hours, not even with a camera, you know, just with a good friend of mine, my friend Kathy and I, you know, we used to go out hiking in the woods, and we would go for miles and miles, just the two of us and just us and nature. I spent time in you know, camps when I was a kid, not only as a camper but as a counselor, and those things really shaped who I am. Those places, the river, the stream, the waterfalls, the mountains, that's home to me. Put me in nature and I feel at home. I grew up in the Rocky Mountains in northern Idaho. And, you know, I used to be able to look out my window every day and see mountains. No matter which way I turned, I could see a mountain in every direction. And that shaped my appreciation for nature. So, yeah, I mean, it really does come down to, for me, it's a part of my soul. And then to be able to go out and share it with other people, that's the biggest challenge of photography, I think. Taking what you see and translating it somehow into an image that invokes a feeling in somebody else. It's a lot harder than it sounds.
When did you pick up a camera?
When did I first pick up a camera?
When did you connect your camera to this passion for being outdoors?
Yeah, I think, oh, that's hard. Sometime in college, maybe in high school even. In high school, I was already entering competitions at the local fair and, you know, doing things like that, but it really wasn't landscape photography at that time. It wasn't until I was in college that I started doing more landscapes. And of course, at the time, they were nothing in comparison to what I have the skill level to do now. But that's when I started to realize that photography and nature were what spoke to me. Of course, I still did a lot of portrait photography. I still did all kinds of other photography too, and thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, I guess really when I went pro in 2005 and then started teaching workshops in 2006, that's when it started to make money for me. And that changes everything, of course. But yeah, I mean, it was very young that I started to do both photography and nature.
What about you, Jay? When did the spark get lit for you?
Well, my story is a little different. I wanted to pick up a camera in high school, but growing up in India, there was no access to the technology. In fact, when we had to develop our prints, we had to go send them to another city to be able to develop just the regular old prints. So I tried to purchase Canon's first camera that came out with auto exposure, Canon AE1. And there was one camera available in the whole city, and by the time I got to it, somebody else had already grabbed it. And I said, that's the end of my photography career for a while. And then I went to college, yeah. And like all other college students, you're always broke, and you're always looking for making money. And so the photography career got on back burner until the digital photography came to the scene. And when the first point-and-shoot camera started becoming available and DP Review went online, I was fascinated. I tried everything I possibly can, and I ended up purchasing the first DSLR camera that was made available by Canon in 2001. And that's when my photography career began. And I've been shooting since late 2001, probably shooting nature photography more by 2002 until now. So about 12 years now.
That didn't take long. You found what you love pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, but you look at my photos from first 3 years and you were like, what the heck is this guy doing on this show?
You can say that about any photographer, seriously.
Yeah, we all have to start somewhere. That's,
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's how it works.
There are very few true savants in photography.
That's
we all
true.
have to work our way
Exactly.
into what we love.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Wow. So what is the ethereal thing that you see when you go out? What do you search for? What are those moments when you're choosing a place, when you're going out and you say, like, what do you look for? What turns you on when your camera's ready?
I think it's really different for Jay and for me. Jay is very much a wide-angle lens. You know, he wants to include that gorgeous mountain, and he wants to include the light beams coming down out of the sky, and he wants the red flowers in the foreground, and he wants the river and the trees, and because that scene is so compelling, so beautiful. And I'm over there, you know, photographing one water droplet with a flare from the sun on it. You know, it's so we're so different in that way. Jay is looking to show this amazing expanse of beauty. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I take a lot of photos like that too, and I love that part of photography, but what I'm searching for is the essence of the scene. Jay's telling the whole story, and I'm trying to create, you know, I'm trying to find the core of the story, the message in the story, if you will.
So my tagline, if you look at my bio, has very little things in it. In fact, the Induro page, if my stuff is very, very minimalistic. I don't like to talk much. My whole thing is for photography is I love to shoot dramatic locations in dramatic light, and that kind of sums up what turns me on and about photography.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's that word, dramatic. You know, Jay is looking for the drama of nature, the incredible drama, which is amazing, and I'm looking for the tiny bit of peace and quiet in it.
But that doesn't mean that we're not influenced by the style of other person or style of other photographers. I grab Varina's macro lens and use it.
You said Varina's macro lens.
Yes.
That's my lens, that's right.
I grab Varina's macro lens, use it, smash it, return it back in several pieces, whatever it takes to get that shot.
But you all did hear that, right? It is my lens.
Erase that from
I heard that. I heard that.
I don't want that on the record.
Can we expunge that later? We'll find out.
I'll pay you.
Yeah, no, there are certain lenses that I'm more likely to use, and basically those are the ones that I carry in my bag. And the macro, you know, actually macro photography is what made me fall in love with photography itself. When I was just a kid, a friend of my dad's loaned him an old Nikon camera. Of course, it wasn't digital; it was a film camera. And he also included a little macro lens. It was incredible for a kid to be able to pick that up. And again, my dad just let me use it as much as I wanted. I would go out there and I would photograph a ladybug. And to realize that this 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 ratio, to see the ladybug so large and to be able to see this incredible detail that most people never get to see, you know, that was what made me fall in love with photography. And that was probably in, you know, 1990, maybe earlier, probably earlier actually, you know, maybe 1985. And at that point I had, you know, I knew what I loved to do. I knew what I wanted to do. Hadn't really developed it as a plan yet. By high school I knew I wanted to be a photographer, but it wasn't until I think 2010 that we bought that macro lens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you should have seen my face. I was like a kid in a candy store. You know, all of a sudden, I've ordered the lens. It arrives, and I was in love with it before it arrived. That macro lens is huge to me. I love it. Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions that I want to bring in right now. We have somebody who asks, "What's the scariest thing you've experienced while photographing your landscapes? Bears? Nearly falling?"
No, bears aren't so scary. I wouldn't say that we've seen Yeah, that's what it is. It's not the rattlesnakes or the tarantula I saw that one time in the canyon. That did make me jump, but yeah, I think the icebergs are the scariest thing for me anyway. They're big and they come at you and you don't expect it, and they cause horrible injuries. Yeah, so.
I think for me the scariest thing would be not being able to do this for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That tops all other fears.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think.
I like that.
Yeah, I think
that's good.
Part of it is that nature is. I think we're sort of taught to think of nature as our friend. It's so beautiful, it's so peaceful, it's so calm. But I think we tend to forget that nature is not our friend. Not at all. It's a completely disjointed, inanimate thing, and it will kill you if you make a wrong step, if you do something stupid. And that's the thing with the iceberg. Being hit and injured by an iceberg in Iceland, something that you would never expect to be injured by, but that's what nature is. And to me, it's not so much a fear, it's more of a respect. And it's gained. It's something that's come to me over time in a very big way. But it leads into what Jay was talking about. The fact is, it's nature that is most likely to cause serious damage, and that would mean we couldn't do this anymore.
Okay, personal question.
Yeah.
Do icebergs really move that fast?
Only if there's there were 3 rogue waves that came in. The iceberg was maybe the size of a cow. It picked up the bergs. Actually, it picked up a whole bunch of them, pushed them past me, and then as those 3 huge rogue waves reversed, the power in the waves is what really got me. The icebergs were thrown at me with the force of a moving vehicle. So yeah, it was like being hit by a car.
It isn't the speed of the iceberg as much as it is the mass of the iceberg that kills you.
Speed
I was being a little facetious there.
No.
The Ice Age took a long time to descend.
Yeah,
Right.
I was just curious.
Yeah, you got to
You just
stay
have
in
to
one
be the
place.
right location.
Yeah, you got to stay in place for a long time in order to get hit by an iceberg. Yeah. No, but basically what I ask is, when I'm around other people, is just that they don't rattle the ice in their cups and things like that, because it makes me a little nervous.
The kids go rattling around the cups, trying to make Marina jump.
They do. Yeah, they come up with ice in their cups and they go, "Mom, is it scary?"
I have one question from the field here. How did you choose your trail? Was it a marked trail? And what was your plan in the event of a storm?
Go ahead, Jay.
I think that question should be deferred to when we talk about the equipment section, if you don't mind, because it actually ties into the philosophy of how we go about photographing nature. So.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Speaking of which, I have over here, Varina, you want to start and talk about the Cascade Ponds?
Yeah, this is one of the things that.
Let me open this up so everybody can
sure.
see
No,
it.
go ahead. That's fine.
No, you can start talking. I'm going to just flip it over here.
Okay. Yeah.
Switch to
The thing with landscape photography is that it's very much unpredictable. You walk into a scene, you need to be able to sort of analyze it, find your location, look for your subject, figure out what you're going to shoot. And in a case like this, we arrived here just before sunrise. We had never been to this location before, and we discovered when we walked into it that there had been some major damage to the lake. The area had flooded very recently, and it was an absolute mess. There were tree trunks all over the place. The mud was so deep. If you took a step into it, it was hard to, pull your boot back out. It made a horrible sucking sound. And you can see in this video that Matt's showing that, later on in the day, these guys came out and they were trying to clean it up some. But look at the devastation. Look at what a disaster this place became when all this happened. And yet, this is a beautiful location. So how do you turn it around? How do you make a photo out of that? And that's what I was up against. So I went out there and I probably took 10 shots from different angles. A lot of people will set up their tripod. A lot of our students will do this. They'll set up their tripod, they'll put their camera on it, and they will get photos from that location, but they don't move. But that's really what it comes down to, I think, for me at least, is picking up your camera, moving constantly, take a shot, move, find another angle, find another angle. And in the end, I might come away with just 1 or 2 photos from the entire trip. In fact, I'll delete most of them right there on my camera if they're not exactly what I wanted. But I think that finding your location and being able to work with whatever nature throws at you is what landscape photography is really about.
That's great. Jay, let's take a look at one of your photos. This one is Herbert. I open this guy up here so everybody can see it. Pardon me while I do the little screen share.
Sure. Yeah, so this is a different shot. Like earlier in the show, I made a statement that I love looking for dramatic light, but dramatic light you just can't conjure up on command, no matter how many SEO followers you have or how popular you are in social media. It just doesn't happen at times. So what do? So we went to this location and we arrived there and there were a whole bunch of clouds, and when we got to shooting at this location, everything disappeared except a couple of wispy clouds. So for us, we often advocate the point saying that there's always things to photograph. You can always take photographs in a number of different locations without having to worry too much about what to photograph. So photographers are always so trained in saying dramatic light and big sky and things. So what happens if you don't get it? You start looking at things alternatively. And this is exactly what we did when we arrived at this location alternatively. We went around, scouted out the location, and we realized that the sunset was not going to happen. There were 2 small clouds floating around in the sky. If I put my wide-angle lens, you probably would be less than 10% of the frame of the sky itself. So not worth shooting with a wide-angle lens. So the question then became, exactly how do you fill the wide-angle lens frame with these clouds? Well, what I did was to be able to photograph this location with a wide-angle lens, shooting only the reflections of the cloud and put them in the foreground. So using a wide-angle lens, I was able to catch the reflections. The cloud looked actually fairly big. Plus, I got these fantastic colors of blue-green ponds of Herbert Lake that are just gorgeous if you view this on a big screen. So creativity often trumps technical know-hows. You may be the best technical photographer out there, but if you can't really see differently by lying down or by saying, here's a beauty in the scene, how can I show it? You will come away with shots that you may not come away with shots that may be possible when things aren't quite going the right way. So we overcome those challenges by looking at approaching photography in a different way. Our approach is to be able to develop a workflow which provides a situation or creates a situation where we can use tools and photography in a number of different ways.
Mm-hmm. I think you're muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Hi, guys. Matt's back. So, we saw somewhere in the comments here that some of you may have some streaming issues. I just want to say that this is being recorded, and if you get into the live stream, you can always jump back and see backwards a little bit and pick up where you left off, and then it'll catch up eventually. And we're going to post this full recording later on so you can watch it in its entirety. We really appreciate you joining us live. Thank you so much. This is a special experience. It's the first time for us, and we're delighted that our first is with Jay and Varina. They're both wonderful people. So
Thanks.
And extremely talented too. Speaking of talented, we have another picture from Varina here that we're gonna talk about. A little story. So this is coming up now. This is the Pado Lake.
Oh yeah. This is it sort of illustrates what we do most of the time. It's not so much about you know, just showing up. It's not about that at all. It's about showing up and showing up and showing up again and again and again. We've been to this location a couple of times now. We've been out there a few times, and we know the location well enough that we sort of know where our composition is. But when we go out there, we don't necessarily get the conditions we want. The first time we were out here, it was hot, it was sunny, it was bright. There were clouds passing by, and on that occasion, we actually photographed the clouds, the pattern they made on the surface of the water of the lake, which was truly beautiful. But what I wanted for this scene, and a lot of times what I'm looking for in any landscape photography, is something dramatic in the sky, something happening in the sky that's really different. I don't just want a flat blue sky. I want something else. So I had been here before. I knew where my composition was. I knew I wanted to be really close to these rocks in the foreground. I had my tripod, opened up as wide as it could go, as low as it could go. I have a center column that's shortened so that I can get really close to the ground, so you can see the detail in the rocks, because I like the way they point in towards the center of the photo. And of course, the trees are pointing upwards towards the sky, and then that storm as it came in over the mountains. We were talking about this as we walked in. We said, hey, do you see that light over there? Do you see those clouds in the distance? That's what I'm after. And when they started falling down the mountain like that, sweeping down the side of the mountain, that's when the photo came together. So that's what we're looking for. We will follow storms wherever they go. We have been, on one occasion, we flew into
Utah.
Nevada. We drove into Utah, probably 5 or 6 hour drive. And when we arrived there, we checked the weather. We saw that the weather pattern that we were expecting in Utah had actually stalled out over California. So we got back in the car. We drove overnight to arrive in Death Valley National Park. 8 hours later, Jay?
Yeah.
Something like that?
2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning. We maybe got a little bit of sleep, but not really. Yeah. And then, we went out there. We were on location ready to shoot Mesquite Dunes with the cloud patterns that we had hoped to get out in Utah. But we were perfectly happy to do that. There's something about chasing it and following it and working for it that makes it that much more satisfying when you get it. There's nothing like looking at those photos and saying, oh man, do you remember the story behind that? So that's part of it. Jay and I, we can say, oh yeah, do you remember the time we did this, or do you remember the time we did that? And so there's such an amazing relationship between the two of us because we have those shared experiences, and one photograph is enough to bring those all up for us. And yet, at the same time, what we're trying to share in the photographs is not that whole backstory, but the feeling that we have when we're standing there on location in a beautiful place like that. And dramatic skies and big storms and great light add so much to that finished, complete product, if you will, that we're trying to create.
Fortunately, nature does comply sometimes.
It does.
And give you some beautiful moments.
It does.
And for most occasions, we feel that there's no need to crank up that saturation color slider in Photoshop because natures have such dramatic colors. All you have to do is to be able to find those at the right light.
Step one, be there.
That's right.
Yep, exactly.
It's so true. It's so true. That's so important. Yeah.
Or
and keep going back.
Step 0, get out of the house.
Well,
Step 1,
that's
be
true.
there.
That's true.
Yeah. You guys have proven it over and over, obviously. So. Jay, I think we have one more picture that we want to show of yours, the moraine shot.
Oh, yeah, the moraine shot. So, we've been to this location about 3 times, and a lot of times landscape photography is actually be able to find that fleeting moment. And oftentimes that fleeting moment doesn't show up when you're ready, but it shows up when it is ready to show up. So we had looked at the weather patterns the day before, and you can actually see us scouting some of the weather patterns in the movie if you watch it. And we had discovered that this area was going to be fogged in completely in the morning. because it was raining the day before, and the rain would settle down. So what we decided to do was try to see if we can get in early as the fog lifted. Now, what we didn't know was when the fog was going to lift. It had some estimated time saying maybe an hour or so after sunset, but it was kind of vague. The weather information is not there. So we drove here in the morning, early in the morning. We got up at 4 o'clock, drove over here, and we were on location probably around 5, maybe 5:15 or so, to be able to hope to get some sunrise. And of course, things were not ready then. And we waited and waited and waited some more and waited some more. And all these photographers came in, looked at it, took a couple of snapshots with their iPhones and left. I mean, we must have seen like 10, 15 photographers come and go.
Oh, you couldn't even see the lake. I mean, it was just,
yeah, it was
you
just
couldn't see the
totally
mountains. You couldn't see 2 trees in front of you.
Yeah,
Nothing
and there's
to see.
a blog post we did about the waiting game, and all you couldn't even see that there was a lake in front of it.
Yeah.
All you can see is those 3 or 4 trees that are standing out there. But we knew that when the fog lifted, that transition between complete blue sky and complete fogged over landscape will provide breathtaking photographs. And that was what we were after. So we waited for 4.5, maybe 5 hours, around 9, maybe 9:30 or so. The fog started to lift. And within 20 minutes, it went from completely foggy where you couldn't see the lake to the scene that you're looking at over here. And in another 10 minutes, it was all the fog was gone. There was nothing except blue skies. So what we try to do is we try to capture transitions to be able to catch photographs that are absolutely stunning and make you go, wow.
And that takes experience. You know, you're out there. The reason the other photographers were leaving is because they didn't know that, you know, they just assumed the fog was going to stick around. But Jay and I have been in fog often enough that we know that it lifts, and when it does, it lifts dramatically and very quickly. We knew we would have just 2, 3, 4 minutes to get the shot before the fog would be almost gone, and that's exactly what happened.
I like to tell people that bad weather makes for great photography.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And in the next section, we're going to hear about what happens and how we select locations based on weather.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good time for us to do a little bit of a question or two from the out. Let's go see what people are asking us.
All right.
Do you have a favorite location or time of year that you like to shoot?
Oh wow.
That's a question we get all the time.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yes.
Fortunately, you like to share, so.
Yeah, I think for me, I have to admit that's a question I could sit here and stumble over for the next 20 minutes. What I can tell you is I have a couple of places where I've been where I was so completely awed by the location that I didn't want to leave. You know, and that's not even fair to say. I never want to leave. That's the hardest thing, right? To get back on the plane and go home. You know, it's a good thing my kids are there because that's what I go home for. You know, otherwise I might not. But yeah, I think that one place was the Big Island of Hawaii. Watching the lava falling off into the ocean was mind-blowing. I mean, the power, the sound of the steam, the violence of it, and at the same time this pure beauty and watching the earth change in front of your eyes. There's nothing like it. So that's one. The second location would be Jökulsárlón. I know, I'm sorry, I butchered that name. I do try, but Jökulsárlón in Iceland, which is the iceberg beach I mentioned before. It's a black sand beach just covered in icebergs. It's constantly changing. It's constantly different, and it is breathtakingly beautiful. And then Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah, which is amazing. But I could keep, you know, and Yellowstone and Glacier, and, you know, it just keeps going and going and going. There's no end to it. It's amazing.
So I could say the same thing. Is I can tell you a bunch of my favorite locations, but if you go to my Induro page, the team page, the one question that sort of just puts everything into perspective is, for me, it is all about experience. I absolutely love the experience of being outside and taking photographs. There's nothing better than that. Like Marina said, if it wasn't for the kids, we probably would not want to come back at any location we visit.
Yeah.
So for me, the favorite location is the one that I'm going to visit next.
Yeah.
And nothing beats
Very
that
awesome.
experience.
Yeah. I don't know. I might say it's the one I'm at now. Gotta live in the now, right?
Doing a live hangout, I'd rather be shooting.
Okay. All right, I'll give you that.
Okay.
Wow. Well, one thing that I'm just gonna take a little side thing here. We didn't talk about it in the beginning, but we're very, very pleased to launch very recently Team Induro. Jay and Varina are members of Team Induro, as are many other really truly wonderful photographers that embody certain qualities of amazingness. You know, like, it's all over the map about how amazing we're proud and humbled to be associated with such talented artists. This is the first. What we're doing today is the first in a series that's going to continue through the year. And basically, what we're doing, we're trying to create a realistic view of what it's like to be a photographer and not cover up any of the difficulties or challenges that you face on a regular basis. This is real photographers speaking in a real manner to you, and we're providing a venue here, and we're really, really, again, humbled and tickled that you guys would do this with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. It's been a pleasure working with everybody, Shade Tree Films, the Induro team, and you guys have been awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We're really happy to be here.
And Jay mentioned, if you look on his Team Induro page, you can go to endurogear.com/team, and you can see all of the members there. Jay and Varina have separate pages because they do shoot separately and differently.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they shoot together all the time.
I'm the better photographer. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's just given.
Let's move on.
No
comment.
You want a drama, aren't you?
And somebody's sleeping on the couch tonight.
Is that what that is?
I'm going to try for an abrupt segue. There's another question from the field. This one is, do you also do much wildlife photography or just landscapes?
We do wildlife photography when the wildlife comes to us. We don't spend a lot of time chasing wildlife. Part of that is because of our time constraints. We need to be able to shoot when we are ready to shoot, which is part of how we choose locations and things like that, is based on when we have the freedom to travel. But also, you know, chasing wildlife is a different, it's an entirely different thing. We can do it, we do it, but we don't spend a lot of time seeking out wildlife and you know, following them to their places.
And I think that may change once the kids grow up and we have more time dedicated to being on a location for a long period of time. We have skill set to do wildlife photography. We have done it in Florida Everglades and things like that. But
and up in Glacier.
And Glacier, but it isn't something that we are actively pursuing as much as we are pursuing landscape photography. But like I said, it'll change over time.
All right. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to start to talk more about problem solving. Because as photographers, generally we are artistic, visual, creative problem solvers. We want to make something happen within a certain frame. And to achieve that, you often have to do stuff to make that happen. And that could be learning more about how to set your camera, get a great exposure. It might be choosing locations. It might be what you put under your camera. It might be what you put over your camera. It might be what you put in front, or who's behind it often has a great effect on what picture you get. But all of these things are basically because you want to achieve a certain thing. You look at a scene and you decide that you want to capture something about that scene, and the decision-making process and how to do that and the tools involved, that has something to do with how you get it.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Let me tell you a story. I'll start with a story. So this section will sort of go in as a storytelling section. One of the biggest questions we get is about the location. How do you go select a location? Our selection to location is slightly different from a lot of other photographers. We don't take dramatic locations and say we're going to go to dramatic locations. It starts out in a hotel room, and that's what the film premiere, if you look at the film, you'll actually see that process of how we choose a location. We look at the weather pattern. So when we were in Canadian Rockies, we wanted to go shoot a place called Johnston Canyon. Now, in a regular Johnston Canyon, it's a really long hike, and it is a tourist trap. So if you go over there, there are so many people that you won't be able to find a parking spot closer than a mile from the trailhead. And even if you do find a parking spot closer than a mile from a trailhead, you get on the trail, and the trail has this narrow walkway. And there's so many people going in both directions that you can't get past the person in front of you for at least half a mile that you're on the walkway for. Mm-hmm. So essentially, going out and photographing Johnston Canyon, which is absolutely a breathtaking location, is a failure before it even begins.
Mm-hmm. Now, even if you can get out there, you've got people in your shot. You don't want to be saying, "Hey, can you get out of my shot?" Those people are there to enjoy the scenery Correct. As much as you are. The last thing you want to do is ruin their trip. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it.
So what we do is our first choice or tools that we use to be able to overcome this is look at weather patterns. As tourists, most people want to be comfortable, and they will go when it is the nicest weather out there. So what we decided to do was Johnston Canyon is a canyon which is best photographed in overcast conditions. And on top of that, even if we were to go in overcast conditions, there would be people there. So Varina and I decided we're going to go really early in the morning on the day when it is supposed to rain. So everybody is in their jacuzzis or sleeping in or having breakfast in Banff.
Yeah.
And we went there, and there was only 2 cars in the parking lot that can accommodate over 100 cars there.
Yeah.
And that was one of our car was one of them, and our video crew was the other one. And so if you watch us in the movie, you'll see us going through the Johnston Canyon without anybody.
There's nobody there.
On a normal tourist trap day, there are so many people there that you cannot move 3 feet without running into another person.
Now, of course, that causes other problems. You're out there in the rain, so you need to protect your camera. You need to protect yourself. You don't want to drown. You don't want to end up sopping wet. If your shoes or your socks get wet, you're going to end up with blisters. Right. So there's even more to it than that.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things that we always do, we always carry rain gear. First of all, we have our bag, and it has a special cover that we put on it. So f-stop has this, our bags are great, and they're going to keep out a light rain. They're actually, they've been underwater before and nothing's gotten in them, but we don't recommend that. But yeah, they have a rain cover, and it's going to keep our bag really nice and dry and make sure our gear stays in top condition. On top of that, we have rain gear for our cameras. So we have a little jacket that our camera wears, and it's waterproof, and that keeps the camera and the lens dry. And then, of course, we have waterproof rain jackets. We also have waterproof pants that we bring along with us for really wet days. We make sure our rain jackets have hoods, and you know what? Our hiking boots are waterproof too. And that's something that comes up again and again. If we buy a pair of hiking boots, they're sort of something that it's a little bit hard to return. You go in, you hike around in them for 3 months, and then you realize that they're not waterproof. That's not okay. That's not at all okay. What if you're hiking in snow? The last thing you need is cold and wet feet. It's not, you'll end up with frostbite if you're out there as many hours as we often are. And so all those little things that we purchase, that we're carrying with us, everything has a really important purpose. And it has to live up to the expectations we have of it. Our boots absolutely must be waterproof, not sort of waterproof, not water resistant. They must be waterproof. And so we test them out, and we try different brands, and once a brand fails us, we won't go back to it because we can't. We have to have dry, warm feet. Same goes for our jackets and things like that. We're always trying new things, but once we find what really works, we tend to stick with it.
So we go into this Johnston Canyon, and like Raina was saying, our f-stop bags, at some point in time it started to rain. So we took out the covers of our f-stop bag and put it on. I think, Matt, there are two videos, right? There is a video about the inspirational movie, and then there is a video about what's in my camera bag. Is that posted?
There's four.
There's four.
They're all endurogear.com/Patels.
Right.
The first thing you see on page there, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk people through the page real quick. Short diversion here, but I'm going to walk people through the page.
That's a good idea.
So here at the top, if you click on See Trailer, you're going to see the trailer that was associated with this. And as you scroll down, today, the first thing you see here is the live streaming Google Hangout that we're doing. This will be replaced in the future by the archive version of it. Below that is the Join Chat button if you want to get on our IRC chat. And you can also use the Google Plus chat here. We're watching both of them, just in case you have a preferred way of doing it. Below this, we have the film that we were talking about. We put the videos here because I'll take responsibility for this. I was under the impression that I could play videos during a Hangout, and it was my mistake. So we put this page up here so that we could show everybody the videos, and if you expected to see it streamed during this, I apologize to you personally, but you can watch it in its entirety here. And below that, there's the three videos that we're talking about. The first one is, how you guys feel about Induro. It's about how you use the Induro tripods, what you chose, and to the right of that are two really great videos of substantial length where you guys go through everything in your bag that you brought to Banff for this experience. And together, they're over 18 minutes. So it's a wonderful thing to really sit through and study how carefully you guys chose to pick every single thing that you put in your bags. It's a fascinating video from the perspective of a tools user and somebody who is trying to make creative solutions visually, a photographer. So
when we went to this, our gear in the bag is broken up roughly into two categories: survival category and the photographing category.
Yeah.
So we ended up using a lot of survival categories, like Raina was saying, waterproof jackets and waterproof things. And halfway through, it started to rain, so we put on all these waterproof things. And f-stop bag are absolutely wonderful in the time that they actually come in and produce this for us. So so then we continued hiking and photographing as we got along. And what we found that in conditions like this, that when the light is low, you have to use, of course, tripods. So the tripods always come with us. But there is another useful thing that we talk about, and Raina can mention something a little briefly, is the amount of weight we carry is critical. And the tripods that we use for a purpose like this would be the lightweight carbon fiber tripods. Made by Induro. So we use like CT 113.
Yeah, CT 113 and then BHL 1 ball heads.
Ball head. So we can carry as little weight as possible, water, food, to be able to be out there from, I think we believe we got there around 8 o'clock and didn't come out until 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. It is, and it's tough, I mean, I am 5'6". I weigh about 120 pounds on a good day, and I'm carrying 30 pounds on my back, sometimes 35. I cannot carry anything that's not essential. I can't. Because if I do, by the end of the day, I'm dead. I have to survive this, right? I have to be able to get up in the morning and do it again and again, 6, 7, 8 days in a row, 10 days in a row, whatever it is. So I have to cut down on the weight. But, honestly, Jay does too. He's not exactly an enormous guy either, though you are in my heart.
Oh, thank you.
Didn't want that to sound bad. But, the weight of each item, I mean, it sounds a little bit weird, but we do actually weigh our gear. We're out there. We need to know, first of all, of course, how much how much weight our ball head can handle, and whether or not it can handle our biggest lens combination and our largest camera and all that. That's important. But it does come down to how much something weighs. If we're going to be camping, for example, we can't carry a tent that's going to weigh 7-8 pounds. We are looking for a tent that weighs less than a pound, ideally. A pound and a half, okay, that'd be all right. So, and it sounds ridiculous, but that's what it comes down to. It's a pound here, it's a pound there, and it makes a huge difference at the end of the day.
So when we took this trip, we carry the lenses. So now the question comes up is, what kind of lenses do you guys carry? Well, we carry, between two of us, we have a range of lenses that covers everything from super wide angle, which is around 16 millimeter on a full frame, to a really long lens in case some bear does a little hula dance for us on the trail. And we want to capture it way, way, way from over there, rather than getting too close to the bear because you only have your wide angle lens.
Yeah. So that's a 70 to 200
70
millimeter
200.
lens. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and then we have a 1.4x multiplier for that, so we get that extended range. And of course, if we put that on a crop factor camera, then we get even a little bit more range.
Correct.
So that combination gives us a whole lot of leeway, and we have lenses all the way from one end of that range to the other.
So from a lens perspective, we have very little overlap between two of us. So if you look through our video, the only lens that we have overlapping between two of us is a normal lens, which is 24 to 70. Yeah. And that too is because we use that more than anybody else. So we both go back and forth with that lens. Yeah. Now, what happened during this trip was very interesting, that as it started to rain, we continued to shoot. So you can, you have one of the photos, Matt, that I send you to be able to show. And it was pouring rain for, I think, 2 hours, right? It just poured. I mean,
hours. It was
Drew
sopping away.
Drew looked like he was about to melt in that rain, but
we thought they were going to drown in their jackets.
Yeah, he toughed it out, and he was good. He was all good. I'm sorry, I'm pulling your leg, Drew. I know you're listening and smiling over there.
Oh,
Chad's just dropping off. And so when I took this photo, it was pouring rain. You can actually see the rain in the background, and the colors and everything was absolutely gorgeous. So the light conditions to shoot were correct. We avoided the tourists. We carried the equipment that we needed to go on a long distance, and we decided to check out a location called the Ink Pots. They were about 3.5 miles away. Well, I was shooting, and I wasn't being very careful, and I took a whole bunch of photographs. And then when I went to the ink pot, guess what? My camera stopped working. Of course, it was really a little too wet, and it was my own fault. And I sort of knew that this was happening because of the amount of moisture that was getting in. But I kept shooting because it was so absolutely breathtaking, and there was no other time I'm going to find this place without any tourists in the way. So we always carry a backup camera. And oftentimes our backup camera will be a crop factor camera. So we have a crop factor camera, and we have a full frame body. And oftentimes people ask us, oh, how dare you shoot with a crop factor camera? You're a pro photographer. Yeah. And my response is, how dare you not shoot with a crop factor camera if it actually really has crop factor written all over it. Like, for example, that bear that was doing hula or on the trail, and I want to capture that, and I don't want to make him look like 3 pixels, and I want to be far away from him. I will obviously grab my crop factor camera to be able to photograph that bear, no matter what anybody else thinks about me as a pro photographer.
Yeah, it's about knowing which equipment is right, knowing when to use it, and that's what makes you a pro, not having the right gear, but having the experience behind it to know which gear is right in any given situation.
And which gear not to use.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not about looking cool. It's really not.
Well, this photograph does look cool. This is the Herbert Lake one.
Thank you. Yeah, and this is all about gear too. I can tell you right now that if I walk onto this location and I get this kind of color in the sky and I try and take a shot handheld, just my camera and me, it's not going to happen. This is a long exposure. I'm not actually sure how long. I think it's a probably 25-second exposure based upon the surface of the lake there and my memory of how choppy it really was. But you know, it's raining. The mosquitoes are coming at me. I was really tempted to use my tripod to swat the mosquitoes. They were actually that large. They were big enough that I could have, taken them out.
It sounded like
the
little
tripod.
helicopters hovering around you. One of those quadcopters.
Yeah, they're just, they're buzzing around you like hummingbirds. No, but seriously, the important thing is I have my tripod. I always have my tripod. I carry it everywhere I go. But, to be out here in a location like this and watching this change, I actually was quite a ways to my right here when I was setting up for this photo. I had no idea that the sky was going to turn purple right over those mountains, and I was focused on the mountains that are a little bit to the left and just out of the frame here. So I had my shot set up. I was ready to go. I was swatting mosquitoes, and all of a sudden, the sky did this. And I picked up my camera on the tripod, just left it on there. I ran around to the side of the lake because I could see in my head what I wanted. I set up my tripod. I made a few adjustments really quick, and I took one shot. I actually took probably 4 shots, but the second 3, the 3 after this first one, it was too late. The sky was done. It only lasts for a few seconds. The fact is that first shot mattered. And because I already had my camera on the tripod, because it could handle a 25-second exposure, because I had experience to know that I needed to be set up and ready. I had my filters in. I had everything ready to go, and I was waiting for those 30 seconds of color. When they came, I was ready for it. That's the difference between showing up camera in hand and not getting the shot, and showing up camera on the tripod ready to go with the filters ready to go and getting the shot.
So with a shot like this, which I'm pretty sure, Varina, it's a fine art shot, right? It will end up in our fine arts gallery.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we take a shot like this, we will classify the shot as a fine art shot, we'll process it, then we'll put it up on SmugMug. Yeah. And all our print sales and everything is handled by SmugMug. So then you come from making a decision in the field about where to go shoot, and then taking the shot, avoiding the tourists, getting a camera that is not working, and having a backup camera, and carrying the lens, all the way to processing the photo and putting it up on a fine art gallery shot. And these fine art shots then gets downloaded and sold through our partners, SmugMug, who has done a pretty fantastic job, and all our prints usually go from them. So that whole process requires you to know the tools, not only in the field, but the processing tools, how to blend the images, and how to set up your gallery, and use a site like SmugMug to be able to sell your photos.
And that's one of the biggest problems I think that photographers face once they decide to go into business. How the heck do you set up an ordering system? Okay, I've got the photos, I took the photos, I did the work in the field, now I've come home and I've got all these photos, what the heck do I do with them now? Okay, so now you've processed them, you've got them ready to go. Sharing them on social networks is not what you want to do. You want to actually sell them, put them into people's homes, put them on their walls, and that's where SmugMug comes in, because it solves yet another problem. It lets us put everything up on the web. It displays beautifully, everything's set up really nice, it's easy to work with, and then of course they handle the printing and the shipping and all of that for us too. So there are so many issues that we come up against as we're working from the field to the post-production to sales and business, the business side of photography, and each of those issues that come up has a completely different solution.
Question from the audience here that's just really related to what you're talking about. The question is, can a nature landscape photographer still sell images and make a living in this day and age of cheap stock photography?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. We have a good friend down in Florida. Hi, Paul. Paul Marcellini, great guy, really smart, great with photography. But what he does is he pretty much exclusively, he photographs the Florida Everglades, the southern Florida area, and he sells his work and does very, very well with that. And what he does is he goes into local shows, and he has his own booth, he has inventory, he has beautiful prints that he hangs up on the wall, he's got them beautifully framed, and that's a big part of it. To get people into your booth, your stuff has to look amazing, and he certainly has that mastered. So he's got it up, he's got it out there, and then he actually has an ordering system so that if people want to order that print that's on the wall, he's not going to just hand that to you. You're going to order it, and he'll get it ready for you. He might sell it to you at the very end of the day, maybe, but that's what's getting.
But he does carry some
in.
inventory, though.
Right, of course, and he carries some smaller inventory, matted prints and smaller prints that you can just buy right there. So yeah, there are definitely ways that you can make money from it. The key with photography is to find out what you love and what you're very, very good at. If it's weddings, if it's events, if it's landscape photography, if it's portraits, whatever it is, find what you're good at, and then it comes down to marketing. And that's where SmugMug helps us, because marketing is so huge, and it all wraps around this whole social media thing. Social media is very important, but keep in mind, if you're selling prints for landscape photography in particular, one of the reasons that our friend Paul does so well is because he is selling locally. He's selling local images locally. What you want to do is grab your viewer, give them a personalized experience. If I've been to Arches National Park, I'm much more likely to purchase a print from Arches National Park. Therefore, maybe it's a good idea to sell your photos of Arches National Park in the park gift shop. So you need to be looking for the right venue, thinking about who your target audience is and how you're going to work with your marketing in order to target that specific audience. That's what it comes down to. Yes, you can make money. Is it hard? Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Is it worth it? Yeah.
Oh, we love what we do. Trust me, I would not give up this job if you paid me to.
Yeah. No way.
That's wonderful. That's truly wonderful. I'm really inspired by you guys.
Thanks.
The marketing part is definitely a challenge.
It is.
There's a quick question from the audience about this. You talked a little bit about social media before. You use social media in very powerful ways. Mm-hmm. You're really well connected to the people that adore you and that you interact with. Just one side tangent from that. Let's talk about formats for a second. You're shooting full frame.
Uh-huh.
One of the very popular photo sharing platforms is Square, Instagram, namely. Do you ever shoot Square, or do you feel any way about that format, or do you really love the aspect ratio of the cameras that you shoot?
I think you have to. You want to go right now, or you want me to go?
Go ahead. I'll add to it.
All right. I think you have to realize there's an article we wrote about maximizing your sales potential. Okay, and this format thing sort of ties into that. First of all, nature does not follow a particular format. Yeah. So if you think that everything you want to capture is going to fit in a particular format, it's not.
Circular fisheye for everything.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Having said that, there are ways you can creatively put elements where you want them using focal lengths and compositions and things, and they're all pretty technical and very well defined. However, if you're shooting, our shooting style is such that we always will look at a photo and say, where should I use this photo? Where am I going to use the photo? So oftentimes, if a photo fits on a screen, or if I think that photo is going to be used on a screen, I will take a horizontal format. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, following that maximizing sales potential, I will shoot vertical just because I know that there are vertical uses that are there for a format.
I think that is a keystone of a successful business person.
Correct.
And it applies across many things, including the marketing side. You're putting it in context.
Correct.
You're pre-visualizing what you want to do, and you put it in context, and that especially works with the marketing side too. You know where you're going to use it and how. It's much more effective. And that's great advice. You should all think about that when you're shooting. Where is this picture going to go, and how am I going to use it?
Yeah, and leave your options wide open. How do you know whether, when National Geographic calls, and I do say when, not if, right? When the National Geographic calls you, are they going to want your photo for the cover of a magazine, or are they going to want it for their calendar?
Correct.
Right? One is horizontal, the other is vertical. You should have both. Now, that doesn't mean every scene is going to work that way. It simply doesn't. That's not the reality of it. But, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think that getting out there and being open to just about anything is the key. There's no reason to say to yourself, I can only shoot 2x3. I will never shoot anything but that. I will never shoot anything but square. I will never do, don't peg yourself. Don't try and stick yourself in a hole. Let it happen the way it happens. There have been times where I have taken a photo and decided on a pano crop where, rather than actually taking a series of shots to combine them in a panel, I have cropped a photo a whole lot off the top, a whole lot off the bottom, and you know what? Why not? I'm allowed to do that. Anybody's allowed to do that. It comes down to how the scene feels right to you. There are some scenes that work beautifully in a square composition. There are some that just don't. So, you know what? Do what makes you happy. Do what feels right. And always in the back of your mind, keep in mind that somebody else might want this photo for some other in some other format, and be ready to create that. Have a few on the back burner. You don't have to process them when you get home if you don't want to, but at least they're there so that when somebody says, oh darn, I see you only have a horizontal, I would love to have a vertical shot for our cover, you can say, well, gee, funny you should mention that. I actually do.
And that happened to me just about 3 weeks ago. One of the professors called me up and asked me, saying, I have this shot that I saw of yours, and I would love to get a print, but it has to be a vertical print. And she was willing to take a 2,000 pixel shot and blow it up 40 inches just because she was in love with the photograph. And I just happened to have a vertical shot, and I told her, I said, look, I have a vertical shot.
No, you actually just so happen to have like 5 vertical shots for her to choose from.
And like I said, maximize your sales potential. So I sent it to her, and she picked one, and she loved it, and it's hanging in her wall
in her home,
somewhere. In her home.
Speaking of maximizing your sales potentials, I'd just like to remind all of you that today and through the end of tomorrow, we're having a very special giveaway. The tools that we're talking about here, there's techniques, there's solutions, and there's tools involved. If you go to endurogear.com/Patels and you click on the enter giveaway, you're going to see how simple it is to enter our giveaway. You're going to see f-stop bags in there. You're going to see the same tripod and head that Jay and Varina use, a little Joby wraparound tripod that'll go any place, a SmugMug Pro membership for a year, and a complete collection of all in Jay and Varina's ebooks. Was it 19 titles?
I think it's 19.
It's 19.
Right?
19
yeah, including our
ebooks.
most recent one that just came out. So,
Correct.
Yeah.
So I recommend that all of you head over here. One entry will give you the opportunity to win 2 times. We're only going to pick one winner per, but you could win Jay's bag full of all that good stuff or Varina's bag full of that good stuff. So we will award 2 people for entering. And if you don't want to tell your friends, that's okay. But it might be cool if you told your friends to share the opportunity to win this wonderful stuff.
That blue bag
Such
is
a cool prize.
Cool.
And we'd really love to thank f-stop for getting involved and
Yeah.
SmugMug and everybody else. So we only got people involved that Jay and Varina actually genuinely use their stuff.
Yeah.
And they have tested it and they approve it. So
Right.
there's nothing that's fluff here. It's all things that that could have an impact on your photographic career.
And you notice that there's a little Joby tripod, and we always get this question, well, where do you guys use Joby?
Right.
I said, we carry a small Joby tripod with us pretty much wherever we go, and we have used it in some of the most weirdest locations. There was one, we went and photographed lava later on that was last year, late last year, or year before. I think, year before.
I think, yeah.
We photographed lava, and we are standing in front of this lava dripping up into the ocean, and it's just absolutely breathtaking scene. You look like you're standing on the edge of Mordor.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy is trying to take a picture in low light, fading light with his handheld camera, and is not coming out. Everything is blurry. So Verena pulls out her Joby, gives it to him, snaps his camera in, and hooks the Joby to Induro tripod leg. And he managed to get a super sharp shot with a Joby tripod attached to Induro tripod. And
yeah, I mean, you needed a long shutter speed. It wasn't going to happen otherwise. So
Yes.
sometimes, just having it there as a backup in case something goes wrong with your tripod, or in case somebody needs one, or students, to be able to, oh, there's the photo of the lava that I
Yes,
took.
that was
one of my
okay.
shots. Such a, you can't miss this, right? So to have the Joby there was pretty cool. But also, it's the kind of thing that you can take into parks that maybe don't allow tripods. They won't ask you about your little Joby because it doesn't look very serious. But they have high-end tripods that are actually remarkable in how sturdy they are. I have one that I can put a full-frame camera with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens and that 1.4x multiplier, and it has no trouble at all. So really, really amazing. Solid, and you can stick it on a fence post or something.
Yes.
And it grips like nothing else. So yeah. So just to answer that question, what do you mean you're using Joby, Gorilla Pods? Oh, man, they're awesome.
So this wonderful process of going out to Banff. Sorry, my headset was a little weird there. was lovingly documented by a group of talented individuals. They call themselves Shade Tree Films. We'd like to bring them in now. They are here with us, and they're going to join us.
Yay!
Yay! So please welcome Chad and Drew from Shade Tree. They are remote. They're not sitting in the same room with us.
Yeah.
Chad, Drew, where are you guys right now?
We're in New Orleans, Louisiana right now.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for doing such an amazing job of storytelling here. It's just, like I said, you brought me to man tears before, so I'm very, very happy. It looks like the stream is a little bit in and out, so we're going to do our best to keep up with you guys. What we'd like to do now is have everybody learn a little bit more about what it took to do this experience. I know you guys have some interesting stories, so why don't you tell us your most interesting story first?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, you mean from our life or from the trip?
Let's start with the trip.
No, there was so much fun that happened in for us whenever we are taking on or thinking about taking on a project. It's an opportunity for us to tell a story that we can somehow connect to emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
For us to just take something on just to shoot it,
I think we're experiencing a little bit of lag time here. Or is that just me?
No, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
We're having difficulty hearing them.
They've been here the whole time, waiting patiently. Sorry, folks.
Oh, man.
We've had Shade Tree here the whole time, and they are in a place with great internet, but apparently internet's not cooperating right now.
Yeah.
So, while they try and reconnect or see how fast their internet is, we asked them to accompany Jay and Varina out into Banff, and they outfitted themselves with a really amazing amount of equipment, probably 3 to 4 times the amount you guys had.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. it was crazy, the amount of stuff they had. It was amazing. You know, they're following us, you know, trying to show how hard it is and how much work we're doing, and they're back there with twice as much gear. We're like, you know, maybe we should do the film about you guys.
Was it awkward at all having some filmmakers follow you while you're doing these things that you love so much?
It was definitely a different experience for me. I was concerned that it would be awkward. I think Chad and Drew managed to make it the least awkward experience of my life. You know, there were times where I would be shooting and, you know, I would think, oh, they've gone off with Jay. Okay, I have a little bit of, you know, I'm just going to shoot. And I'd get down and all of a sudden I'd look up and there'd be, you know, like a dead cat, which is the covering on the sound boom, right in my face, and two cameras, and I'd be like, oh my god! And they kept saying things like, you know, you got to quit with the deer in the headlight looks. I'm like, oh jeez. But yeah, I mean, it was a really different experience, certainly for me. I think Jay was probably a little more comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah, well, I wasn't quite comfortable, but I think between two of us, I'm more not likely to be bothered by dead cats hanging over me. Only the live ones will bother me. Yeah. So. But
I think that Chad and Drew made it an experience that was so much easier than it could have been.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it looks like they're back.
Yeah, let's say hello to Chad and Drew again. Hey,
hello.
You're back.
Are we here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened after we test ran this thing.
The beauty of a live broadcast.
Yeah.
We can't tell you how excited we are. We want these guys to share their stories with you too. So it's just a little bit of hiccup there, and now we're back.
Okay, try again.
Are we there?
Yes.
I was just saying, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's our end or what we can do to make it better, but we'll hang out here and figure it out.
I think we're doing good now. So I hear you guys hired a Sherpa.
We did. We prefer to call him a camel. No, basically what happened is when we first started talking about this, Jay was very good at scaring us to death. Basically, we went into this knowing that we would never see our families again. So
we did.
One of our solutions to make our wives feel a little bit better about us marching into our deaths in Banff was to hire somebody that actually isn't really even a part of our production team, but was in good physical condition, that could throw on a backpack with a pocket jib and a pocket dolly and a glide cam and a couple of extra camera bodies and a boom pole and a shotgun mic and extra jackets for us and some additional snacks for Drew because he gets hungry really quick.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, it's totally true. We that was a decision we made, and kind of it was one of the best decisions as far as the production side of it was to have
the snacks.
The snacks.
Snacks for Drew.
The snacks were too. I have experienced very few things like sitting on a rock in the middle of the wilderness for I don't even know how many hours we were out there waiting for the clouds to just do their thing, right? And you're sitting on this rock, and by the time you realize it, 4 or 5 hours has passed, and you've experienced heat, you've experienced cold, you've experienced rain, hunger, needing to find a wilderness bathroom.
Yeah.
All of these, it's incredible, and like it blew my mind to be there and watch Jay and Varina in their element, and the endurance and the love that they have for this and the patience. I mean, we don't operate a lot of times in that amount of patience. We're
I don't know. You were awfully patient with us. I kept expecting you to shove us off a cliff or something. Good Lord, enough of these people. You know.
Yeah. So it was an incredible experience, to say the least.
Thank you, guys. You did a really amazing job.
Oh yeah.
So I think that there's something that would be interesting to the photographers that are watching here. You guys may or may not have used DSLRs on this shoot, but perhaps you do have some advice that would be useful to those people who have DSLRs with video capability and are curious about making films in very remote locations.
Yeah, we've used a DSLR once or twice. No, it's the film that you're seeing was shot completely on 5D Mark IIIs. And so it's the tool that so many photographers have in their hands already, and it's no new news anymore. I mean, it used to be 2 years ago that we would do something like this and be like, "Did you know your camera can do amazing video?" That's not news anymore. What is news, or what is helpful for people to understand, is that there are some things, some tricks that you can use quite easily to create video that is beautiful with a tool that's already in your hand. So just using the video and creating something that's amazing are two different things. And obviously there's a ton that you can do. Everything that we do is shooting manual focus, manual adjustments on our cameras, all of the time. Usually manual white balance, unless we're in a hurry to set up for something like Jay and Varina are getting that shot that was just gorgeous over the water that we showed earlier with the logs, and we have our cameras ready to capture his reaction. Then we'll flip it to some sort of white balance that's preset. But really, what I would say is if you don't shoot as a photographer, if you don't shoot manually, getting familiar with those manual controls if you want to use video effectively is huge. And getting efficient with them, because things change on a dime, and especially if you're in the wilderness or whatever it is, if you're going to catch video of wildlife, getting efficient with changing those settings manually is going to help you a ton. So practicing. When we teach our workshops, we literally make our students come inside, get their settings, walk outside, get their settings, come inside, get their settings, walk outside, get their settings, and to help them kind of start to get that feel of like changing environment, all of those sort of things. And I will say, like, for us, we haven't found a lot of success in the auto settings with our DSLRs on video.
Now, Jay and Varina, I would venture to guess that you also do not use any automatic settings?
None whatsoever.
Very rarely, yeah. We do occasionally use autofocus, actually, but no, we're shooting in manual mode. Yeah, we're making. You know what? The thing is, you want to have ultimate control over what you're producing, and that's what it comes down to. It gives you the control you need. It gives you all kinds of options, and I mean, I don't know, one of the things that our photographer friends and our videographer friends notice about this video is the shifting focus, the way you've got these beautiful shots with really narrow focus, everything's out of focus in the foreground, in the background, that kind of thing, that kind of shot makes the video sometimes, and maybe most people won't notice it because they don't know what to look for, but the fact is it changes the whole mood, and knowing how to do that, knowing which lens to use, knowing which camera settings to use, it changes everything. Don't just set it up and push a button and say record. I mean, these guys were following us around, making constant changes. Here, use this lens. Here, use this. They're like handing cameras back and forth. They're doing these, like, I don't know the right words, but they're like swinging cameras back and forth. we're watching them like, what the heck is happening? It was so cool. But yeah, so manual settings, very important.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I think that one of the awesome thing that I noticed about you guys was how much attention you pay to the audio. You know,
I
that
was
would
gonna bring
just
that up
totally
too.
blew, because that is not something that the photographer experiences.
Yeah.
It's only in the video element
Right.
that becomes
You
important.
should have seen them. I mean, they were back there like, oh, here's a stream. Okay, so Drew is down there on his knees on the rocks with this little, Drew, what's it called? It's a thing and it has a thing.
Technical terms.
She's got the
The thing with the
microphone.
thing.
Yeah, the thing with the
You
thing,
talking
right?
about the furry boom?
Right,
Yes,
yep,
the
that's
boom
it.
with a headphones on, trying to measure the ambient noise and trying to
Yeah.
adjust
And
things.
he's got it, just inches from the water, and he's like, okay, silence. And then everybody's just silent watching him, and we're all kind of going, okay, wow, so that's the trickling stream you hear in the video. He's got bird sounds, he's got grasses, and that's not because they happen to make little bird sounds as we were sitting there talking or moving around. No, that's all them collecting these little sounds as we run around. It was really cool. I think sometimes he's got like 6, 7 layers of sound. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not just one track. This is track upon track upon track. And it's really cool what went into it on the back end.
That was one of the interesting things that we kind of couldn't comprehend when we walked into that location, when we drove into Banff, and just the majesticness of the area. And it was a little overwhelming at times. And we were thinking, like, how, even the first location we got that morning, we're just blown away. And we're thinking, and we're looking at what's in our cameras, and we're like, this does not do it justice. And so for us, we were just like, how do we give this place the credit it needs? And, like, audio was one of those things. Is like, how do people experience this not only visually, but then, they hear what's going around, and it made it more like people were present and they could experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we always found out that Drew likes extra food and extra audio layers.
Yep, that's right. He likes his snacks and he likes his audio.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm flipping through a lot of background pictures here so everybody can see a little bit of the behind the scenes. And you can see in every scene where there is a film camera going, there's definitely attention being paid to the audio and the positioning of everything. So, yeah, fantastic.
I think our audio engineer was a little bit overwhelmed when I sent him all the tracks, and at one the video has like 15 layers, and he's going, "Come on, guys, really?"
I know. Well, that's the funny thing. I think what was that day one after the first day, the first morning sunrise. They were saying, "Oh my gosh, we got so much footage today. I think we have enough to do the whole movie."
I was like, "What? You want to go back already?"
Well, they certainly didn't want to go back, but you could see. I don't think either of you guys expected to get that much footage in that short a time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat to watch. I mean, your enthusiasm was absolutely infectious. We do this all the time, but for you guys to walk into it and be like, "Oh my gosh," I think we heard, "Oh my gosh," probably 300 times that first morning. We're like, wow, okay. It is cool.
I thought Drew was ready to go back because we got him up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, dragged him out, and then he had to photograph in this bad light the driving shots in the back seat of our car.
Oh, yeah.
They made the film.
And there was no breakfast until I was all done.
I have a question for you guys, Chad and Drew. Of particular interest to me, you being visual storytellers over time, how did you prepare for this with the pre-production side versus what actually happened on scene, where not everything can be scripted? Can you tell us about the relationship between those two things?
Yeah. The relationship between those two things actually was amazing. We had some initial concerns when we first started talking about this idea. And how do you storyboard something so you know the product that you're going to get in the end, but then not have everything staged? And the thing that I appreciate most about our team, both on the Induro side, Jay and Varina, and with us, is we were all very committed to making this thing natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were completely committed to making sure that this piece was Jay and Varina, not Shade Tree Films' puppet show. right?
Thank you for that.
That encapsulates our work, right? I mean, we're really not interested in if it's going to be something that looks like reality. We want it to be reality because the audience connects to reality. And so we were all so committed to that the pre-production process, basically, we talked about the elements that would be incredible to capture. A lot of our pre-production conversations consisted of getting us aware of what it's going to be like in the wilderness for these many days. You know, and a lot on our end, not involving Induro and Jay Varina, was like, okay, how do we lighten the load enough but not lose production value? Yeah. That was the theme of our pre-production, because we wanted to do this film justice, and there's a lot of tools that we use. I mean, when we travel for a normal shoot, we're traveling with 8 cases that are over 100 pounds.
You should have seen the back of the truck. I mean, oh my gosh.
And we had to reduce that basically to 4 backpacks. And 8 hands, I guess, right? Because our backpacks were full and our hands were full, and it was interesting. That was, I would say, that was one of the biggest challenge in the pre-production process is how are we going to reduce this load to something that is manageable, hiking 7 miles in one day in the rain, you know, up a steep hill, but not lose any production value. And keep the integrity of the story that we're telling, because we're in Banff National Park with incredible photographers, and to lose any image quality or to lose any production value would be a shame.
Or to be able to miss something. You had to be able to capture it quickly on the fly and not have to do this huge setup.
So we created a storyboard of hopefuls. Basically what it was is we said, here's our hopefuls. We hope that at some point the equal of getting mowed over by a glacier happens so that we have our climax.
They were hoping we would be mauled by bears. That's what they're trying to say in a nice way.
That's not nice.
Yes. They would say, hey, Varina, there's a bear over there. Look.
I've been chased by a bear. That ain't fun.
Oh, man.
So, you know, there was that. We had to keep ourselves in check because there was that element of like, oh man, we need some drama here. Like how, you know, what drama is naturally going to come or whatever, and it ended up being much more about the overall adventure and being prepared and going through this challenge. I mean, that rainy day was crazy, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it was absolutely perfect. It was. For me, it was incredible to just see you guys. You did not miss a beat in that room. Like, not even a beat. Like, it didn't even fade you. I don't even think you stopped walking at any point.
No.
You didn't catch me with my shoes in the water and try to get those socks, wet socks, dried off at the end of the hike.
Well, yeah. I mean, we get up to the top of this trail, and, you know, there's nobody there, and everybody, I mean, all of us, the whole group, we're taking everything off, we're opening up our bags, we're, you know, airing everything out, just trying to dry. Every bush was draped with a jacket or a, you know, something, because we were just drenched, you know. And of course, then all the tourists showed up like half an hour later, and then we knew it was time to go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was a soggy morning. Yeah.
Drew and Chad, thank you so much for joining us. We're really, again, we can't say how grateful we are for your talents. Thank you. Are there any like final stories that you'd like to share with the audience?
I don't know about stories. I mean, it was a blast. We had so much fun the whole time. I loved being in the woods and hearing Jay across the lake yell, "Hey, bear!" every time.
Repeatedly, yeah.
Jay, can you do that for
communicates
us?
with the bears.
Hey, bear.
Yeah.
No, but when we go into these woods, it was interesting that I don't know if you guys, Drew and Chad, if you guys made it all the way around the lake where we were, but every 2 steps I could see bear scat, I could
Yeah.
see wolf scat,
Yeah.
I can see little coyote scat,
Yeah.
and I was just expecting there was nobody in the woods, that some bear is going to be hiding out there having a nap, and I'm going to just stumble over him and just drop in his lap.
Yeah, that's the
Better
thing.
to let him know you're coming.
And I
Yeah.
wanted to let him know. So
Yeah,
I would yell really loudly, and these guys all the way across the other side of the lake could hear me because I was by myself.
Yeah.
To as a precaution.
When I'm
You
hiking, I
want
sing
the
at
bear.
the top of my lungs.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Well, that
true.
works too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What if the
yeah.
bear didn't like the song you were singing, though?
Yeah. I mean, you
So
know.
far,
I'm in
not
real
enough
trouble.
to eat me. Well, one of them did chase me. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that doesn't sound like a good story.
I'm here. I have no marks on me. Hey.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. No, but we have been surprised by bears before. The last thing you want to do is surprise the bear. Much better if I'm surprised than the bear surprised, right? So,
Yes.
so yeah, we do. We actually do that as we're hiking. If it's particularly quiet, if there aren't a lot of tourists around, we will be yelling, "Hey, bear," at the top of our lungs because we don't want the bear to be surprised by us. We want him to know way before we, walk into the clearing where she and her cub are so comfortably dozing in the sun. Yeah, we want him to know we're coming.
I would say, I know a lot of people on here have come because they follow Jay and Varina's work and the incredible stuff that they do. And if you could have the opportunity that we had to watch these two work, it would blow you away. I mean, just to watch their dedication, it's hard, whatever, but their love for it. And it's so precise. It is seriously like watching a dance. Because Jay will be doing something, Varina knows exactly what he's doing, and she's doing something that complements it, and vice versa. And they have like this sixth sense that is like, I don't even know how it occurs, but at some point, they are both so focused and so silent, and then magic happens for 30 seconds, and we missed it. We didn't even see it. We don't even know what's going on. But then these images come out of it that are just like blow you away. I mean, as Drew was saying, the biggest challenge for us was capturing the majesty of this place and how overwhelming it is. And that was our biggest frustration with the whole project, is how do we even show these people what this is? And these two do it day in and day out, and it is just incredible. I mean, and then none of that even mentions of like what amazing people they are personally as well. We, along with watching them work, but just sitting down at dinner with them and conversing, and I don't know, it was awesome. It was an incredible experience.
You guys better be ready to come with us again.
Yeah.
We have some big plans too.
Thank you, though. Thanks for your
thanks
kind
for
words.
such a great testimonial.
Drew and Chad. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it shows in the imagery, and that's why so many people are drawn to the work. I feel like it's not all about knowing camera settings and knowing how to hike and knowing how to see the light, but it's how much you put your heart into it as well. And enjoy it. Yeah, and enjoy it, and that's what was so remarkable to me. And it's for me now. Whenever I walk outside and there's a sunrise or a sunset that's gorgeous, I'm like, oh, it's a Jay and Varina sky.
Yay!
Drew and Chad, outside of being fantastic storytellers yourself, you do some teaching too? Or
we do.
Or you do some speaking also?
Yeah, that's why we're in New Orleans speaking at a conference this week, which has been awesome.
Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Go to shadetreefilms.com. There's a lot of options there. And we have some threads to some of the educational stuff that we have, and then some of the other work that we do as well.
Fantastic. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Jay, Varina, I think it's a good time for us to sort of wrap this up, but I have one really important question for you. Outside of phones and other stuff like this and the wonderful technology. In fact, I'm going to hold that question for 1 second and direct this to the audience. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming out and spending close to 2 hours with us. It's the time has just flown right by. We appreciate every second you spent with us. Thank you. We look forward to everybody who watches this later on. Of course, the people who watch it later on, unless it's tomorrow, January 23rd, 2014, you may not be able to participate in the giveaway that we're having. So if you go to endurogear.com/Patels, you can enter this wonderful giveaway that we have. And this is the last time I'm going to plug it. I just want you all to have the same opportunity to win some of the fantastic gear that they use on a regular basis as professional photographers. So on to my final question for you guys. And we're going to we're going to give the questions that were unanswered to Jay and Varina, and we'll see if there's a way that they can perhaps post it in a blog post or, find ways to communicate back to you guys your very interesting questions. We're sorry we didn't have time for everything, but this last question, dangling it, drum roll please. Now that you've done this wonderful, wonderful thing out in Banff, which apparently is just a normal experience for you guys, what are you going to do next? What's on the plate for Jay and Varina?
Well, we just spent the very first part of January in Australia. We taught a workshop, and then after the workshop, we spent 7 days traveling around the Anna Bay area in Australia. And during the 12 days that we were there, we had a film crew following us the whole time. Brent Mail, who's amazing, Johnny Spencer, also amazing. They put so much work into it, and we are producing a 2 or 3 hour, we're not sure how long it's going to be at this point, but a really complete, we're calling it, the working title I guess right now is the Ultimate Landscape Photography Course. And we have done everything from actual workshop, filming the actual workshop, talking to the students, responding to their questions, walking them through different locations, different settings, all kinds of things there, to behind the scenes things that we do when we're on our own. Once the students had finished up and gone home, we were out there, as I said, for an additional 7 days, putting together tons of lessons and tutorials and all kinds of things in the field on location. So this is completely different from anything we've been able to find online. You can find lots of information about processing. You can find lots of technical stuff online. What you can't find is this in the field experience. And so that's what we're trying to offer for people who can't come on a workshop, or for people who want a workshop experience sitting in front of their computer. That's what we've tried to create, and I think it went way beyond what we were expecting.
So what you will find in this product is we go on location, we talk about the location, the film crew follows us on location, and we actually take it from the location about how we select composition and the light and why we are at this location at this point in time as opposed to some other point in time, what equipment we use, all the way from taking a photograph and how we set up the camera to take the photograph, what camera settings to use, whether we use focus stacking or hyperfocal distance or whatever. All of this is recorded, and then we take the same image into post-production and say, how do you go about and process this image? So it is something unique that you will see the sense of what goes on a location as well as what goes on behind the post-production process and what comes out at the final end. So it is titled appropriately, that says it covers the workflow from just being outside and looking at a scene and coming out with a fantastic photo.
Everything from field work to settings to light to post-production and so much more. So yeah, that's our next big thing.
Next big project. It should hopefully be available in February sometime.
That sounds so wonderful. We wish you the best of luck. We look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think you understand the gratitude here, but thank you so much for doing this project with us. We're very proud to have you as members of Team Induro. Anybody who wants to learn more about Jay and Varina, go to endurogear.com/team. You'll find all of their links there. You can see all of their photography, their workshops, the fantastic blog that they run, the educational products that they have now, and the future ones coming. And if you want to see this video, if you happen to be viewing it not on our website, go to endurogear.com/patels, and you'll get to see all of the films that we referenced during this on that page. Thank you so much. We're just delighted. It was a wonderful day. If you have any questions for us, send it to info@endurogear.com. My name is Matt. I appreciate hanging out with you, Jay and Varina, and we hope you all have a very wonderful day and a productive photographic life. So,
Thank you,
so
Matt,
much
for having us.
Thanks so much for having us. This has been
All right.
an amazing experience.
And thank you for everybody who joined us today.
Yeah.